Welcome to the Bread and Butter Show. We're looking behind the scenes of the hospitality business. I'm Wendy Hargreaves. Restaurants, pubs and cafes have been making the news again this week for all the wrong reasons. And we'll be tackling some of those COVID issues in today's show, brought to you by hospo tech company HungryHungry. Coming up, we'll get the lowdown on the lockdown from Melbourne dumpling king Zhou and co-owner of Carlton's King and Godfree, Luca Sbardella. We'll also find out how council red tape is stopping a Torquay brewery from serving more of its patrons in safety outside, despite the state government's push for more outdoor hospitality. But first, let's look at this week's hospitality news, brought to you by HungryHungry. Well, it's official. Figures released yesterday by the Australian Bureau of Statistics have confirmed the perilous state of Victoria's hospitality industry. Since March, when COVID hit our shores, 36% of Victoria's food service and accommodation jobs have disappeared. To put this in perspective, New South Wales lost 18%, half as many as Victoria. And the ABS figures showed employees aged under 30 were the biggest losers. The ABS also released stats on the industry's overall wage bill, which dropped 28% in Victoria from March to September 5. That was double the national average. West Australia seems to be the place to be, losing just 10% of its hospo jobs since March, but only dropping 1% of the sector's overall payroll. Industry leaders have told me they're not surprised by the figures and they expect the numbers to be much worse when JobKeeper payments eventually run out. Meanwhile, Sydney chef Luke Mangan is leading a campaign to abolish state government payroll tax, which he describes as a penalty against businesses employing staff. No news from any of the nation's state governments on the likelihood of that cash cow being given up in a hurry. But Mangan has also set his sights on a push to get the federal government to scrap the controversial fringe benefits tax, or FBT, encouraging the return of business lunches and dinners when restaurants get back into action. The chances of these tax breaks appear slim, but the industry is pushing hard for change. Back in Victoria, the City of Melbourne will be handing out free outdoor dining permits to restaurants, encouraging more tables and chairs on footpaths, car parks and laneways as the pandemic restrictions ease next month. Town Hall's $100 million outdoor dining package also recommends closing certain streets for weekend festivals. These could include Faraday Street in Carlton, Burke and Russell Streets in the CBD, and Bel Air Street in Kensington, also Domain Road in South Yarra and Errol Street in North Melbourne. If it all goes to plan and COVID cases continue to drop, alfresco dining will be allowed from late October. Premier Dan Andrews has hinted at opening restaurants and pubs earlier, with a possibility of indoor dining following the success of last week's reopening in regional Victoria, and the fact that the rest of Australia's hospo sector is trading without causing any COVID hotspots. Melbourne City Council has joined the city's top restaurateurs lobbying the state government for faster reopening of indoor dining. The council will also deploy 200 safety officers across the city, providing every venue with COVID-19 safety kits, including thermometers, sanitisers and signage. But the news isn't all grim. This Saturday is World Dumpling Day, and one of Melbourne's Yum Cha patriarchs is marking the occasion by teaching a virtual dumpling masterclass. I'm talking about David Zhou of the Oriental Teahouse, and he joins me now. Welcome to Bread and Butter, David.
Good, thank you, Wendy. Thanks for the invite.
Now, you've been making dumplings in Melbourne for nearly 30 years. How many do you reckon you've made in that time?
I think millions. It's like Chinese populations. Yeah.
So you've been, like all restaurateurs in Melbourne, you've been coping with your dining rooms being closed for months on end. How are you coping with that?
Yeah. That's the tough one, and I think to see even yesterday, I just see the space just basically empty and not being used. But we're still cleaning, tidy up, and it's just feel quite bad. But at the same time, we're talking about the virus. I mean, the life. Yeah, I understand. It's
So
difficult. Yeah.
you've seen so many changes in the last 3 decades in Melbourne's food scene. How do you think the city will come back from COVID-19?
I think will be some older faces still there and resilient, and the people already do well before this virus. And I think still they have regular come back quickly, and then some so-so or even below the level. And I think they will basically have a rest for a long time if it's not permanent. And I think then for a while, and I think we'll be a little bit busier, then they will definitely attract new people coming with a new format, and they will come back. So I think it's kind of like a adjustment. Definitely, there will be a very back then, and I think that at the time, I think that John Handel is like a hero, right? But then we're sitting on the table for one of the meeting, and I think some cafe owner, they asking, who's this guy? I think, are you? So it's different time, so different.
Yeah.
I'm in between, and I'm still hanging there.
You've always been very entrepreneurial in the way you've done your business since starting your first Oriental Teahouse. So what's next for David Zhou?
Keep fighting, keep kicking. that's too late to change. That's become us. And I think to whether entrepreneur, restaurateur, or any business, I think it's basically it's problem solving. They that's why I think sometimes they get the called the new things syndromes. So they attract to creative new. Attractive to different kind of ideas. I think to us, definitely, I think we need to stay where we are. And I think over all these years, David, especially, I think for people recognized as some kind of like a quality Chinese place, and Oriental Teahouse being, the Teahouse. I really always believe, I think the Oriental Teahouse is being the best teahouse in the world, because I think that this is what I think. I've got the reason for that. I don't want to spend too much time for that, but I think I think that we need to understand who we are first, and I think to stay with it, because this is the best time to help the customer. If we're not really pivot to where we totally lost our customer, think what's your offering, then I think then we can't really get help much. So we stay who we are and continually do what we do. Then we are innovating around that way, whether convenient for them to receive our the products, or whether the products we can make it more interesting, more easier. That's why we comes with this time the home kit. Actually,
that's the great news, really, isn't it? With the World Dumpling Day coming up on Saturday. It's a great excuse to eat lots of dumplings, but your dumpling kit is encouraging people to make their own dumplings at home. Now, from what I can see, it costs $90 to have a kit delivered to your house with everything you need to make 60 dumplings, plus 30 pre-made dumplings by the experts, so you can taste what it's supposed to taste like. And it can be delivered up to 40 kilometres from Melbourne's CBD, even with a bamboo basket for the steaming. So it sounds like a great deal. And then you'll be teaching a masterclass as well.
Yeah, it's all it's fun, and I've been doing these sessions before that, many sessions for different reason, and I always feel with my tea testing, and there's a certain clientele, and the dumpling masterclass, always different generations all come together and sit on the same table, very engaging. And I think for them, not with me, at this it's a good activity. I really think it's quite suitable for this period of time, and the people stuck in the room, and they need to have really some kind of a good something to do together.
I'd have to agree. It's great. It's very zen to sort of be concentrating on building a dumpling. But if you're interested in getting some of the Oriental Teahouse dumplings, you have to get your order in by 4 p.m. tomorrow through the collabpantry.com.au. Now, David, it's always a pleasure to talk to you, and it's definitely always a pleasure to eat your dumplings. I hope you have a very happy World Dumpling Day.
Thank you. You're always very supportive. I think we really blessed. I think to have somebody like you, and screaming for we are a small business. I think working hard without you guys, and I think it's really will be harder, much harder. And I think that makes things very encouraging. Thank you so much, Wendy. And I think I still remember the first time. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you for your time, David. That
Thank
was
you.
David
Thanks,
Zhou
Wendy.
from Melbourne's Oriental Teahouse. Now, from dumplings to beer, how's that for a natural segue? My next guest is Adam Smith, the co-owner of Bells Beach Brewing in Torquay, which reopened to beer-loving customers last weekend and quickly booked out. He's now stuck in a big pile of red tape, however, and Adam joins me now in Torquay. Welcome to Bread and Butter.
Morning, Wendy.
Good morning. Seeing your beautiful brewery in the background there. Are you still busy making beer despite the restrictions we're all living under?
Yeah, we've been really busy actually the last 2 weeks building stocks for the summer. You know, we've got to make sure we don't run out for our customers.
Well, yes, you can't be running out of beer. So from what I hear, you and your co-owner, Jono Mostrop, have really exciting plans for a vacant block outside your brewery in Torquay. Tell us what you'd like to do.
So it was actually our landlord's idea. He owns the vacant block, which is directly opposite us. And he was inspired by the announcement by Dan Andrews about doing more outdoor hospitality to aid the recovery. So he came and approached us and asked if we wanted to do a pop-up bar food truck park. So we started out, we talked to some of the local businesses, food businesses and beverage businesses. They were really excited. We put together a proposal for the council 2 weeks ago, just to try and see what was possible and if it was possible, hoping that the sort of Premier's announcement would sort of speed things along a little bit. But the feedback we got last week was basically the planning schemes haven't changed. We have to go through a planning permit like we would do any other time, which takes months. And
so the Surf Coast Council can't expedite any kind of outdoor trading despite the state government's very public push for more outdoor training and less red tape.
That's the feedback we've had so far.
Oh, it's very disappointing. Have you heard of any other businesses in the same boat?
Everyone in Torquay is the same. So there's another brewery here, Blackman's. They've made some applications. Four or five different restaurants down Bell Street and the Esplanade that have made approaches to the council, and they're all getting the same response.
Well, what would you like to see the council do?
I guess, they're recognising that they want to keep people safe and make sure everyone's operating in a safe and sensible way. I guess ideally it would just be a list of action items we can at least work on. At the moment, we're not getting any feedback other than it's not no, but it's not yes. So if there was, we're quite motivated and very driven to kind of get an outcome. If there was something we can fix or something that we can actually even work on, then we're very happy to work on it. But at the moment, we can't really do anything. Ideally, they just go, let's make it happen. And, I guess there's a few councils in Melbourne now that have really sort of taken the bull by the horns and making things work. I guess that would be the ideal outcome. But we'd settle for just a list of things we can actually go and get some responses together on.
Well, hopefully we can rattle some chains for you. I did contact the Surf Coast Shire Council this morning to ask for a response to what's going on, and they didn't think they had enough time by 10:30 this morning to get back to me for a response. So, but we'll make sure that we stay on it and report back in subsequent shows on Bread and Butter. Now, you opened in a big way last weekend with regional Victoria able to start trading indoors and outdoors with limited numbers. Now, from what I hear, you booked out pretty quickly.
Yeah, we got the nod on Wednesday that the rules around what the outdoor hospitality space looked like, and by Thursday night or Wednesday night we were ready, and Thursday we opened, and pretty much as soon as we put up Facebook that we were open again, we were sold out all the slots we had basically. There was only on Sunday, we weren't full at a capacity of 24, which is the current limit, which is great. It's just not people back in.
It's an interesting time, isn't it? Because Melbourne's hospitality industry is now bracing for a very quick 24-hour notice, which is virtually impossible for a restaurant. I mean, you guys managed to turn around because you've got a food truck outside, so you don't have to worry about ordering in food, but it must have still been a struggle to do it quickly.
Totally. I mean, I guess if nothing else, there's only three of us in the business. We don't have any casual staff right now with no certainty in the bar, so we just worked from 8 o'clock in the morning till midnight every day basically last week just to try and get everything ready and support the bar opening.
So have you got any tips for Melbourne restaurants, bars and cafes as we come out of our slumber and hopefully reopen in October?
I guess based on the response we had over the weekend, brace for a lot of hungry and thirsty people. I think there's a lot of pent-up demand in the system, and as soon as people get the opportunity, kicking the doors in.
So for those lucky enough to travel to a brewery in Torquay for a freshly poured beer, where do people find you?
So we're just behind the surf shops in a place called Baines Crescent, just about halfway down, just on the right-hand side. You'll see we've got a big bell hanging off the front of the building and a big sign, and then just in a little courtyard behind the front building.
Fantastic. Oh, that's it. Like all good breweries, hidden away in an industrial part of town. Fantastic. Now, thank you so much for your time, Adam.
Thanks for your support, Wendy. Really appreciate it.
And look, best of luck with getting that red tape cut through, and then we'll stay on it for you, and hopefully we'll get some results for the hospitality industry of Torquay and Victoria. That was Adam Smith from Bells Beach Brewing. Now, earlier in the show, I talked about Melbourne City Council's $100 million plan for reopening restaurants, pubs and cafes across the city. One restaurateur who's been reading all of this fine print is Luca Sbardella, co-owner of Carlton's King and Godfree, a fixture on Lygon Street's culinary landscape since 1884. Welcome to Bread and Butter, Luca.
Hi, Wendy.
Hi. Now, your family has owned that beautiful corner business for almost 70 years, like 3 generations in the same business. So no pressure on you, huh?
I know, isn't the old saying that the first generation grows it, and then by the third we destroy it? So yeah, there's a lot of pressure on me to make sure that doesn't happen.
Oh, look, Melbourne's lockdown must have been one of the biggest challenges your family's ever faced.
Look, I guess apart from my grandfather escaping World War II, this would be up there. I mean, there is really no precedent or example that we can look to see us through, but we're all trying to stay as positive as we can to get through it. And I think our street and our business was never cancelled. It was just put on hold temporarily. And I think with the sun coming out and the numbers coming down, we're excited to see what takes place over summer.
So describe what it's like in Lygon Street at the moment. I mean, I'm a Carlton local, and every time I go down there, it feels as though another shop bites the dust. Like, it's very quiet down there. How does it feel for you as one of the major retailers and restaurateurs on the strip?
Well, I'm not going to lie to you, Wendy. It's not a great situation to be in. We have had a number of closures over the past couple of months, and even going back prior to this, it's been very hard on the street for some time now. But Carlton's always gone through its ebbs and flows, and I know that a number of prominent Melbourne restaurateurs are coming back to the street next year. So, it is really unfortunate that that this has happened and that businesses are going to close. But in saying that, I'm confident that some new businesses will reopen, and with the push from the City of Melbourne and Carlton, hopefully it'll be a more attractive street for people to come and operate businesses.
Now, so my ears pricked up then when you said that there are a couple of major restaurants moving into the area. What is it that you know that we might not?
Unfortunately, I'm not at liberty to speak just yet. If this interview was in a month or so time, I'd be very happy to announce it. But we're working on something currently that I think will be very exciting for Carlton to bring a lot of prominence back to the area. And I can't wait to let everyone know.
Now, you're sitting on an absolutely beautiful property after a 3-year renovation of the heritage site on the corner, which is a great asset for Carlton over 3 levels. But of course, it costs millions and millions of dollars to do it. So how are you keeping above water?
Well, we're very fortunate that we've got a great operation and a great location, a fantastic rooftop bar. It hasn't been easy, but we're managing, and currently through the COVID situation, we've pivoted our business, I guess, away from dine-in, and we're doing deliveries and catering, and that that's kind of kept us afloat. But we're very much looking forward to the third stage of restrictions easing on the 26th of October, and we're looking forward to getting people back and serving them some pasta and some good wine.
Now, if you have a look at the City of Melbourne plan, they point out Faraday Street would be a good spot to close off for dining and festivities, which just happens to be the street that on your corner. What can you imagine happening? If your brain must be going overtime, coming up with possibilities.
Yes, very giddy about that possibility. This is something I've been looking forward to for a number of years. When you go to Italy, where my family's from, at 4 or 5 o'clock, the streets close, and people are allowed to walk up and down the street. Hospitality offerings are allowed to spew out onto the street, and it just makes it such a jovial experience and a friendly atmosphere. You know, it's similar to, I guess, when they closed the city for White Night. You saw how many people came out and enjoyed the city. So nothing's been granted to us yet. There are a few other streets that we're in consideration of closing down, potentially Lygon Street as well. We obviously have to be very considerate of the retailers' wishes and residents' wishes, but you know, we couldn't think we couldn't be happier that potentially we're allowed to open up the street and provide Melburnians with a taste of what we love in Italy.
Well, if you could cut through all the red tape and wave your magic wand, what would you like to see happen in the main drag of Carlton to bring it back to life?
I would like to see some capital investment. I think the street is in need of a bit of a facelift, which the Lord Mayor, Sally Capp, and the City of Melbourne have somewhat committed to. I think it's fantastic that they've allowed these outdoor permits for street closure to be free of charge for 12 months. From what I've heard, you know, as everyone might be aware, it takes quite a long time to get things through council, but they're very adamant that a lot of the red tape will be cut. And again, as I said, you know, they're doing a fantastic job. No one's been prepared for this, and they're trying their hardest to help traders. You know, it's not their responsibility, but they're trying as hard as they can.
Oh, look, I beg to differ there. It's why you pay your rates to get help from the council. So, your grandfather Carlo Valmortimer did an amazing thing, building the business up and creating this legacy for you guys. So, if he was around today, what do you think he'd make of this situation of coronavirus and everything being shut down?
I don't think he'd be very happy about it, but I think he'd be in the same situation as we all are. We're obviously all struggling, some doing a lot harder than others. But, you know, he was never one to back down from a challenge, nor are we. I think we have to somewhat stay positive and realistic, determine whether or not our businesses are financially secure for the next 12 months. If they are, we'll give it a go, and we'll give it the hardest go we can, considering that you know, this is essentially like fighting an invisible war. You know, we have to be prepared to go as hard as we can for us to survive.
It seems to be some strip shopping areas do really well under the pandemic conditions because people are shopping locally, and whereas others, like perhaps Lygon Street and major streets like Chapel Street, have been struggling. Is it time to rethink how the major strip shopping areas are presented?
Well, I think you're right, Wendy. You know, with the increased use of Amazon and online services, there's probably just, you know, there is a decrease of the need for retail outlets. And I think before anyone really goes into a retail business or hospitality business, they have to really consider that hospitality essentially is one of the most complex and very much competitive markets there are in this country. So, yeah, I think, look, main streets can still be activated. We're working with the City of Melbourne to try and activate some empty stores. For me personally, there's nothing worse for a retail precinct or street than an empty store. So for us, it's trying to get hospitality businesses and retail businesses back to our street, as well as kind of thinking outside the box and creating some things that might go into these businesses prior to them being leased out.
Back in the 80s, when Melbourne was looking very crummy in the inner city, the likes of Brunswick Street was all boarded up and became what it is today because artists moved into and started squatting in those shops and started creating amazing things. Like, are you saying that if the council comes in and helps set up businesses in the vacant stores, that it'll be like a gentle nudge to revitalise in the same way that Brunswick Street came back?
Well, I'd really hope so. I think what would be great is if we can all work together, and that's something Carl and Nick are doing. We're working with RMIT, the Melbourne University, City of Melbourne, some local residents associations, and some event planners to kind of, I guess, think outside the box. And I don't think there's one institution that can really run this by themselves. It's going to be a collective effort. So we're trying to work behind the scenes to come up with some creative ideas that can help these main streets and these retail precincts.
Can you give us a little hint on some of those creative ideas for the vacant stores?
Well, there is talk of possibly allowing some pop-up businesses to go into these spaces. Obviously, we have to deal with the landowners, and there are issues with public liability and things like that. But allowing people who predominantly couldn't afford a year's lease to possibly go in and spend a couple of weeks in there, as well as doing some art installations in public spaces, which I know the City of Melbourne are working with us to try and create.
Well, the only hurdle I imagine would be landlords not willing to budge on rent. Like, how do you get around that?
I think the landlords are in a position now that they understand that empty buildings are probably hurting their potential future leases. So I've spoken to a few, and they seem to be very willing to help the street.
Well, I really do hope so. Now, we're all counting down to when restaurants and cafes can open next month. In the meantime, how can people enjoy King and Godfrey?
Oh, well, we have some fantastic offers on our on our online store, and we have next day delivery. We have a lot of pastas, wines, Italian beers, antipastor. You really don't need to cook another meal for the next 4 or 5 weeks if need be, and we're more than happy to deliver it for you.
Well, contributing to the massive overweight pandemic in Melbourne, with everybody ordering in their pasta and wine. Thank you so much for sharing your story on Bread and Butter, Luca, and I really look forward to seeing what you come up with when we finally come out of this lockdown. Any hints on how you'll be celebrating the reopening?
Hopefully with a rooftop party. We've got a big open space there with great views of the city, and again, we can't wait for everyone to come back. We're chomping at the bit. It's been far too long. It sure has, Luca. Thank you so much for your time. That was Luca Sbardella. Thank you, Wendy. The co-owner of Carlton's iconic King and Godfrey. You've been watching Bread and Butter, brought to you by Hungry Hungry. I'm Wendy Hargreaves, and I'll be back next week with more news from behind the scenes of the food and drink business. Until then, eat well and stay safe.
Stream us live on the Ticker app, Apple TV, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube and tickertv.com.au. Ticker, streaming news now.